power of the Supreme Court. To begin this discussion, we must first understand that the Constitution was written by the states in order to establish and clarify the responsibilities of the federal government. There was no federal government at the time. The Constitution did not apply to the states except in particularly stated areas. We also must establish that the law of the land as conceived by the delegates. Article 6, paragraph 2 states that the Constitution and the laws of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land. There is no statement in Article 6 that provides the courts of any jurisdiction, any authority over the laws of the United States or the Constitution. In fact, in paragraph 3, the article goes on to say that all officials of the government, including the state governments, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, not to decide what it says. We are currently taught in every environment that there are 3 separate but equal branches in our government and that each of them provides checks and balances over the others. That is not true. The people and the states provide the checks and balances over each of those branches through their elected representatives. Thomas Jefferson makes this very clear in his letter of 28 September 1820 to William Jarvis, when he says, "I know of no safe depository of the ultimate powers of the society, but in the people themselves, and if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with a wholesome discretion, the remedy is not to take it from them, but to inform them their discretion by education." Look closely at the Constitution itself. The word supreme appears only 7 times in the entire document, and it is never capitalized. These references are in Article 1, Section 8, Paragraph 9, Article 2, Section 2, Paragraph 2, Article 3, Section 1 twice, Article 3, Section 2, Paragraph 2 twice, Article 6, Paragraph 2. In none of these references is the Supreme Court given any power over the other branches of the government. Here are the actual powers of the Supreme Court as stated in the Constitution. In Article 3, Section 2, Paragraphs 1 and 2. As we read this, let's break it down to understand it better. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under, there are listed 2 major laws, this Constitution and the laws of the United States. Then it goes on to include treaties, and treaties made or which shall be made under their authority. Whose authority? The Constitution and the laws of the United States. This first part, the judicial power part, establishes the limits of the judicial power and lists the laws which the court must use in its adjudication of the cases that come before it. Then in the second part, 8 and only 8 types of cases are listed. Note when you look at the actual Constitution that each type is set apart by a semicolon and a dash, so they are easily identified. 1. To all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls. 2. To all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction. 3. To controversies to which the United States shall be a party. 4. To controversies between 2 or more states. 5. Between a state and citizens of another state. 6. Between citizens of different states. 7. Between the citizens of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states. 8. And between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens or subjects. Then in paragraph 2, the original and appellate jurisdictions are established. There it is, very clearly stated, and in no place does it provide for the Supreme Court to rule on the constitutionality of any law passed by Congress and signed by the President. Nor does it provide any jurisdiction over the laws of the Constitution of any of the states. So where did this notion come from? It all started in 1803 when Chief Justice John Marshall, in the Marbury v. Madison decision, established that the Supreme Court would review the laws of the United States passed by Congress. It happened with the words judicial review, which became the law of the land. Note, the court doesn't pass laws. And in practice, it meant and still means that the court could review laws to determine their constitutionality. The Constitution didn't give that power to the court. Marshall just took it upon himself, by himself, and we let him do it. Consequently, we now think the Constitution includes that power. Today, when the court needs to affirm its legitimacy, it cites Marshall's opinion in Marbury v. Madison. Then in the year 1816, with a very convoluted decision, John Marshall ruled in Martin v. Hunter that the United States Supreme Court can control decisions of the state Supreme Courts. At this point, he established that the federal courts are above the state courts, and therefore the laws of the states. Remember, the states founded the federal government and wrote and ratified the Constitution. Therefore, this decision is like the children controlling the parent. He got away with it and established another precedent. With these two decisions, John Marshall made the Supreme Court the law of the land over all other governments of the land. He set up the body of the Supreme Court as the Emperor of the United States. He began the complete destruction of the Constitution and the liberties guaranteed by it. It has taken many decades to come to the complete fruition of that goal, but it has now arrived. Just look at the so-called laws passed by the Supreme Court on religion, abortion, and marriage. The court has made right wrong and wrong right. Orwell in fiction did exactly that and predicted that the future direction of our federal government very accurately. In addition, note that the term supreme is never capitalized in the Constitution. It is not the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court. The term is not a title, but a designation of a place in a hierarchy between the federal court, the federal Supreme Court, and the federal inferior courts. The Supreme Court caused the title to be capitalized to provide them with more authority, and we have just continued to use the term improperly. The Constitution did not give any federal court jurisdiction over any of the constitutions or laws of any government body of the United States.